Am I at this mic? Yes, I'm at this mic, correct? Well, of course I am. I'm here. Okay, I was in the green room a few minutes ago and found out that Morrissey's memoirs have just come out. And in honor of that, I wear flowers in my back pocket and throw them out into the audience. Okay. Hello, 89 plus. I am 89 minus. And I am really, really thrilled to be here tonight. In this amazing building. Sorry, this is the first time I've actually been in it. And what's it made of? Like zinc or something? It's fantastic. It's lovely. Okay, here's the thing. I was born in the year 1961, and I was molded by the Cold War and by analog technology and by really primitive computing technology. And in order to enter the future that we're in now, I had to unlearn a lot of ideas that I think most of you here tonight are never going to have to unlearn. And I called you the Diamond Generation because you are bright and you're hard and you're crystalline. I'm kind of jealous of you, but at the same time I get butterflies in my stomach when I think about what your future has in store for you. Will you be entering a global monoclass where everybody wears beige jumpsuits and spends 16 hours a day plugged into a wall? Or are you going to instead enter a rich, heterodoxical world in which everyone dresses like it's Halloween and every day is a Saturday and everyone fulfills their inner potential? And mostly, I wonder how you're going to express your political will down the road. Will you inhabit a world like the one we inhabit now, one of sort of perpetually deadlocked polarities, a world where rulership no longer seems to have much connection to daily life? Or will you upvote, downvote for leadership every 24 hours on an app, much the same way we vote for cuteness in kitten clips or express our preference or dispreference for Russian dashcam videos? Okay, the internet. Okay, here's the thing. The thing about the internet is you would never, ever, ever, ever phone up someone you knew and say, hey, you know what, I'm coming over to your place. Let's go on the internet together. It'll be fun. It would be ludicrous. After masturbation, internet browsing is the most solitary thing we now do in our culture. And yet, for an act that is very, very solitary, the internet has a very powerful knack for creating massive and wholly new groups and collectivities and ideological armies. I thought maybe we could take a quick trip into the future here and explore some of the possible options of being an individual in a world of collectivity. Now, imagine that you were going out on a date with yourself, and not just like a hookup, but just a coffee. And you'd be meeting yourself somewhere neutral and non-stalkery, like a Cafe Nero, and you do it around 11 o'clock in the morning, which science will someday prove is the least sexual time of day. But let me be clear here. You're not going on a computer date with someone with identical DNA to yours, not a twin or a triplet, but rather you're going on a date with the one person on Earth with whom some super intelligent computer has picked to be your date. The one person on the planet who is, in as many modes as is possible, identical to you. Now, this pre-selected date might be much older, much younger, or way richer than you, but that's very doubtful. Chances are you'll be identical in age, history, income, musical tastes, and, well, it's a very long list. And I'm in this weird situation right now. When I talk in public, my mouth goes dry. And I love talking in public, but it's the freakiest thing. And my mouth feels like the Sahara Desert covered with sandpaper. Does anyone have a bottle of water I could borrow for... The gods have smiled, okay. Oh, okay. So then, how is this date with yourself going to go? And it's not self-flattery to think that you'd probably like yourself very greatly. And because you're meeting with someone who you don't have to explain anything to. They already know you. They are you. And just think of all the things you could recommend to each other. and all the things you could warn each other away from, like movies, businesses, churches, foods, countries, hotels, religions, other people. It'd be fun. But on the other hand, what if you met yourself and it was actually just kind of boring? Because there's only so long you can look in a mirror before life moves on. So maybe you come away from your coffee with yourself shrugging and saying, well, that was relatively uninteresting. Though much more plausibly, you might come away from your encounter disgusted by yourself. It is human nature to dislike in others the traits you dislike in yourself, and this would certainly be the test. But the silver lining is that, well, you'd very quickly learn about all the things in yourself that need fixing. So your unlucky date with yourself could be a blessing in disguise. Let's push it further. What if this crazy smart supercomputer also introduced you to the next 10 people as similar to you as possible? Collectively, the now a dozen of you would actually be just one person more or less spread out equally amongst a dozen people, a dozen bodies. And chances are you'd probably get along quite well with each other too. Maybe you'd all move in together in one great big house, and you'd almost be like that cult house down the street, like, ooh, it's so scary, cult people who think and believe all the same exact things. Stay away from there. So let's take it a notch further. What if the computer selected the 1,000 people most like you, or the 10,000 people most like you? At what number would you draw the line at saying, nah, that person's just a little bit too different from me? Do they have criminal proclivities? Are they dull conversationalists? Are they into kinky stuff? Are they another gender? But then, okay, here's an idea. What if you were having a personal crisis and you genuinely needed solid advice? Who better to seek counsel from than your calm, detached doppelgangers? You could basically crowdsource your own personality with yourself. Now let's go to the next level. What if your very smart dating computer selected the 51% people in your country the most like you? You could you could get together and you could form a political party, couldn't you? And you'd have very little dissent amongst yourselves. The you party would instantly win. You would rule. But at what point do you draw the line at identity? Left wing versus right wing, Beatles versus Stones, atheists versus theists, chocolate versus vanilla. A discussion like this is sounding like a parlor game in the year 2013, but in 20 years and 1,000 trillion petabytes later, voting and politics and consensus are going to morph into something new altogether. And if people are still going to go to the ballot box, well, in 20 years, you'll be able to tell how many of them took an elevator that day, whether or not they pushed the door close button repeatedly, what color shirt they wore, how many voters they'd interacted with that day. And they would have also a transcript of everything you said available on demand with search words, allowing you to find. It's a really long sentence, Doug. I once heard, I'm going completely off topic here, that what makes literature is very, very long sentences because it's not the way we actually think. And that if you're trying to make something you're writing sound a bit more art-like, get rid of the periods and replace them with semicolons and commas and suddenly like, ooh, that's art. I can't believe I just revealed my secret to the world. So anyways, the larger issue here regarding voting is who and how and what is going to determine that new 51%, or rather 50% plus one vote, and what criteria and what algorithms are going to be used, because this is the true future of voting. Voting in the future is about going on a date with yourself. Now, there's a person I'd like to introduce you to, and this person's name is Todd. I've got to ask, we're in England where no one's called Todd. Is anyone here who's English and lives in England know anyone who's named Todd? We have one hand up. Like in Canada, the faraway land where I come from, half the people there are named Todd or Kevin or Jeff. Dear Twitter, Doug got really random and it kind of frightened me. Let's talk about Todd. Let's say you install a small app in your laptop or your phone, and let's call this app Todd. What Todd does is he monitors your emails and your memos and your documents, and in so doing, Todd learns about you. The words you tend to misspell, if you're having your period, your friends' birthdays. Todd is very useful. He's an app, and Todd stops you from making errors and gently corrects you and makes you a better person along the way. Yay, Todd. And because you like Todd, you upgrade to Todd Plus, the enhanced package. And now Todd starts getting more and more detailed in his analysis of you, where and when you shop, the pharmaceuticals and illegal drugs you take, where and when you shop, the way you communicate with your parents, your peers, and your children, the sorts of things that, well, these can all be construed using relatively simple algorithms. No more embarrassing slip-ups for you. And what's that? There's a sale on my favorite Chilean Chardonnay at Waitrose. I'm in. And so Todd is proving to be a sound addition to your lives. But soon Todd is no longer something you just download on to your phone or laptop, but now Todd is up there in the cloud somewhere. And that's fine. But because as years go on and computer speed and memory grows logarithmically, Todd goes from being just this app that was on your mobile device to becoming a sort of personal butler / parallel you. Todd starts fielding your dullest emails automatically. He makes your morning coffee and alarms your house while you're abroad. Todd really gets you. And then a few years from now, in the near future, you get an email from Todd saying, hey, let's put a face on me. And through a simple 3D rotational scan at your local tech boutique, you can make Todd look just like you on screen with alarmingly accurate facial animation and tics. You are Todd. Todd is you. And by now, well, there can't be much about you that Todd actually doesn't know. He's seen everything you've ever put into a search engine field. He knows which friends you're avoiding and all about your sex life. Todd knows about who you voted for and what you really think about the afterlife. And not only this, he has instantaneous total recall of where and when everything you ever did happened. And he's also part of the internet. And at this point, we're a bit more into the future, and you're not the only person out there who will have a Todd. 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion people have some version of Todd in their lives. And because computer speed and memory are 100 trillion times faster than when you first signed on with Todd, Todd's become a genuine virtual version you who exists out there with all the other virtual people. Okay, now there's the third point. After a point, you and Todd start to diverge. There's the real you, and then there's the Todd you. Except you're getting older. Well, Todd is ageless. Todd actually merely gets richer and denser with information in tandem with the entire computing universe. Your face looks like crap. Todd hasn't aged. Todd's actually looking really good due to some rendering software. Except I love it when I make a mistake like this. It's kind of like having a stroke in public, where I've chopped up one sentence, inserted it into the wrong paragraph. Doug found the joy in his errors. Well, basically, Todd is an idealized, perpetually young version of you. Well, you are going to be dead soon. Dogs last for 12 years, cats last 15, and humans go for about 77 these days. But Todd's actually kind of bored of you by now. You haven't done anything interesting in decades, and Todd can script out the remainder of your days with chillingly molecular accuracy. So while you're asleep, Todd screws around and briefly turns himself, into a computer-generated owl flying through a cybernetic forest, a CAD model of an automatic transition from a 1974 Ford Cortina, or a real-time map of Antarctic weather patterns. Like a teenager, Todd starts hanging around with other Todds. And with nearly infinite levels of speed and memory, these other Todd entities start talking about you. They make fun of you. They compare profiles and joke about how statistically boring you are. And after the cyber equivalent of learning to smoke cigarettes and have sloppy sex, your Todd decides to dump you. You wake up one morning and WTF? Todd has shacked up with another Todd, and they've decided to fuse together to become another collective entity. Todd is gone, and time goes on. This new Todd instantly Well, he merges with a Todd cluster from South America and another one from Japan, and they rename themselves Heaven's Choice and decide to make 1 trillion copies of themselves simply because they can. These 1 trillion copies then wage war on another Todd cluster that made 1 trillion copies of themselves, but it's sort of primitive to wage war, and these entities quickly realize this, and they stop, and they apologize, and they have a cloud orgy, and they all merge into one great big cosmic unitod. Now, the only real physical need of this ultimate unitod is a technological apparatus maintained by human beings to ensure it has wires, transmitters, satellites, and fibers kept intact and all in working order. But does your unitod get nostalgic for you? Does he miss you? No. So the question here is, here you have the ultimate alloy of human souls becoming a full reality, an entity that will probably embody every conceivable aspect of humanity, all of it multiplying itself infinitely, coming to conclusions we can never hope to dream of articulating. You have to remind yourself, understanding the true magnificence of unitod, that the biological you was actually just a necessary step needed to arrive at the universe of an all-omniscient unitod. Now here's plot twist. Change the T in Todd to G, and suddenly you have God. And so I guess something holy was inside of you the whole time. Now I look at you, there's a lot of 89-plussers out here tonight, and it's wonderful to see, it's scary to see, it's shocking to see. In my mind, you're not just diamonds, you're all star children. I am very, very jealous of the world you're going to inhabit. Don't let people get you down with negative futures. The future always ends up being way better than you thought it would be. I do wonder what it's going to be like to have an internet account in the year 2040. And I wonder what technology is going to eclipse the internet. Well, that's your problem, not mine. It's a joy and a pleasure to be here tonight at the Serpentine. What a great building. What is it made out of? I still don't know. Hans-Ulrich and everyone else, thanks very much. And I wish you a happy, God, if you're born in 89, you're probably going to live to be 130. Where does that put it? Oh my God, you're going to see the 22nd century. Now I really am jealous. Good night. Okay.